we pretty much know the meat and potatoes of that story, but we were like, okay, what about the stuff we don't know? Like, why did he come back? Why did Steve come back? If this draft is that, perhaps that's one of the things that they're excited about too. I'm not only curious to see, what they could potentially do this offseason. I wonder how much not only Steve, but Steph and Draymond are involved and Jimmy are involved in free agency, because if I'm Draymond Green and I'm Steph, I'm knocking on LeBron James' door and trying to get him to come.
Hello, kind sir. How are you?
Just in L.A., heading to Cleveland next for what should be a very interesting game, right?
Very interesting game. Yeah, season on the brink for the Detroit Pistons yet again. I know what you can do on that plane flight. If it's long enough, you might be able to finish that Wright Thompson article about Steve Kerr.
I tried to skim it, and I basically was like, and shout out to Wright, he's one of the greatest, right?
So good.
But I think in the Bay, we pretty much know the meat and potatoes of that story, but we were like, okay, what about the stuff we don't know? Like, why did he come back? Why did Steve come back? And I actually love the thing that his daughter said. That she said, you talked about 3 things you don't like. What about all the things you do like? Like, everybody don't love their job. And I was like, leave it up to his daughter to keep it real with how great he has it. Right? He's probably getting paid about $20 million. He gets to coach Steph and Draymond. You travel on private jet. And look, I'm not trying to belittle the pain that Steve has with his back and other things, but he got it pretty good now. He got first world problems. And I'm sure most of Warriors Nation, Dub Nation, is probably ecstatic that he's back, even if it's just 2 years. And I'm sure if that's that, they'll take it and see what happens over the next 2 years with Steph.
Yeah, Mark, obviously the piece that Wright wrote is all about why Steve Kerr stayed with the Warriors, but I think, like a lot of answers, there's a number of different right answers. If I were just to ask you to sum it up, why do you think Steve Kerr wanted to come back and coach the Warriors? What was the number one reason for him, in your opinion?
I think Steph Curry. You kind of made a promise that you're going to stick it out with him. And when you think about it 10 years from now, if you promised them and you didn't behold to that promise, and then Joe Schmo comes in and just does an awful job, and Steph's final chapters are terrible because the coach that they hired, I think that, perhaps Steve probably would have maybe felt a little guilty about that. And I don't think any coach they could have brought in could have brought the right formula. We could have came up with a bunch of names. I mean, who's going to walk in that door and command not only the team, but command excitement and respect and able to talk to those two? It ain't just Steph and Draymond. Jimmy Butler's a superstar in his own right, and mercurial in his own right too, right? It's like Steve is the new Phil Jackson in a sense, because in order for Phil Jackson to be a great coach, a lot of his coaching was psychological, getting the best out of people, not only bringing the best out of Michael Jordan, but Pippen, but Rodman, and understanding Rodman and the Rodman things, right? And Steve is to me, the modern day Phil Jackson, the way he's, brought these troops together here, and I'm glad he decided to stay.
Look, I know with everything that's come out in recent times, we're kind of we're all thinking about the Steve Kerr situation. I don't know, Mark. When you look at the offseason, at a certain point, we'll get through all the emotional stuff and we'll get to the basketball stuff. And in that article, it says that Steve and Mike Dunleavy had a final meeting where they were able to both get each other fired up about the plan. What do you think the plan is? Yeah, exactly.
Well, no. I mean, I think what the plan is they have some intriguing free agents, right? Or intriguing prospects, whether we're talking about LeBron James, whether we're talking about Giannis, who the owners of the Bucks just basically said, hey, we're open to trading them. And then, excited about the 11th pick. I was told that this draft is the best draft since 2021, which is as deep as 2021, which is saying a lot. And I could rattle off some names with that one: Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, Jalen Suggs, Josh Giddey, Jonathan Kuminga, Franz Wagner, Moses Moody, Alperen Sengun, Trey Murphy III, Jalen Johnson. Very, very great draft. I think the Lakers signed this undrafted rookie named Austin Reeves, too, who ended up being a really, really good player.
Yeah.
So if this draft is that, perhaps that's one of the things that they're excited about, too. So I'm not only curious to see, what they could potentially do this offseason, but I wonder how much not only Steve, but Steph and Draymond are involved and Jimmy are involved in free agency, because if I'm Draymond Green and I'm Steph, like, I'm knocking on LeBron James' door and trying to get him to come. Right? And I don't know if the Lakers are going to offer him what he feels like he deserves. I don't know that the way Cleveland's going right now, do you really want to shake the boat there? But the one thing that's going to be interesting with LeBron James is if he doesn't get an offer from the Lakers that excites him, would he consider, taking lesser money somewhere else like Golden State or Cleveland, just to go somewhere where he thinks could make him happier? So maybe that's what Steve's excited about, the possibilities of trying to add something creative to the puzzle.
Mark, we've heard various people around the Warriors organization talk about maybe like resetting expectations a bit. Steve Kerr talked about how this was a fading dynasty and maybe that got him in trouble a little bit. Steph Curry, when the season ended, talking about how they need to kind of reset their expectations and everything doesn't have to be championship. I think from the outside looking in, most people kind of think Joe Lacob expects championship and everything else, isn't a success. Do you feel like there's maybe a recalibration from the inside of the organization about what is possible the next 2 years, or is it still we're going everything we possibly can to win a championship, or have they kind of reset what their goals might be for the end of this era?
I think, first of all, the Bay Area is spoiled now. I remember a day in the 80s and the early 90s when the Warriors were like 2 or 3 games out of the 8th spot, and Warriors fans were just hoping they'd figure out a way to get to the 8th spot. And now it's like championship or bust every year. Let's be realistic, folks. One team could win this thing. 1 out of 30. And it's about to be 32 in a couple years. Like, you got 4 of them, been to the finals, 6 times? Savor that. Savor Steph's years. Worry about Steph's years more than, the championship stuff, because even if you have the right team on paper, even if Steph is going crazy, you just never know what could happen. Nobody knew Jimmy was going to get hurt. Nobody knew Steph was going to have his injuries. Look at what's happening. Nobody knew Durant was going to get hurt, right? OKC has a big question mark because I don't know if J-Dub's coming back. And the Spurs, assuming they win tomorrow, are certainly capable of beating them. So it's everybody has championship aspirations, but it's not like just going to a window and buying it. Everything has to go right. And so the dynasty probably is over, but if you put the right team out there that can fight, this is truly where anything could potentially happen. And so maybe it's probably better not to just put so much pressure on it and just try to get the best team possible and let the chips fall where they may, be a little bit more realistic and appreciate what happened, and definitely appreciate every game Steph and Draymond have to play, than putting that kind of pressure, because it's 1 in 30, man. Let's be realistic about this thing. Even if their team was amazing, nothing is good for anybody.
Did I hear that you were out at the Combine in Chicago?
I was.
Did you talk to Mike Dunleavy?
I did not see him.
Okay.
I was kind of on a overt mission, interviewing 7 or 8 of the top 13 players in the draft.
Okay, so based on what you saw, though, the Warriors sit at 11. I know you're high on the draft. You've already said that. For you, is this like no doubt they should make the pick, or is it on the table?
I was told today, the expectation today is that the Warriors will make the pick.
Okay.
The guy I met with that intrigues me a lot, and I don't know if he's sitting there, but it would be really, really hard, I think, to turn him down, is Karim Lopez, who could be the first Mexican player taken in the first round. I covered Eduardo Nájera, so I know, what kind of impact having a Mexican player can have on your team just nationally. Obviously you saw Toscano Anderson having the first Mexican-born player in the first round wearing Lopez. I mean, that'd be a hot jersey in the Bay if he ends up coming. But this is a intriguing 6'9" player who played in Australia last year. He played against grown men. So he's ready to play now, despite the fact that he's only 19 years old. He shot 50% from the field. He needs to improve his three-point shot. He shot about 32% from the three, but he's athletic. I'm not going to call him Scottie Pippen, but he got Scottie Pippen kind of things to him. He talked about the Warriors a little bit with me, and Draymond, and the excitement of playing with Steph and Draymond. And I think he could be a great addition for the future if Karim Lopez is sitting there. Another thing to keep in mind is, like, every year at these drafts, there's somebody that falls that you're not expecting to be there. Like Braden Burries from Arizona. If he's there, one GM told me be probably like a top 8 pick. He's that kind of talent. But there's just a lot of shooting guards in this draft. Like Mikael Brown Jr. is rising. He won't be. Another guy I met with who is extremely more of a project, but I think he's going to be special, is Nate Amen. Nate Amen is 6'10", 19 years old, deadlift shrimpish, very intriguing shooter. He's going to get stronger. He measured at 6'10", and he told me that a doctor said he still had room in his growth plate to potentially grow another 2 inches.
Oof.
So you're seeing a guy like that who could shoot threes, who could score in the post, who could play point forward. Nate, if he's there for the future, for the Warriors' future, I think he'd be very, very interesting. This is the draft where I want to see how good your scouts are. This tells me how, if you need to give your scouting staff a raise or you need to revamp it. Because from 1 to 15, even past 15, there's talent here. But 5 years from now, like, what are they going to say about these guys, right? And I think I'm going to be, like, when you look at that draft in 21 and you see a guy like Alperen Sengun or Jalen Johnson, who the Warriors passed on twice.
Yep.
Right? Like, to me, this is going to be an intriguing draft. So you could, your guys could show you how good they are. But there's somebody talented for the Warriors, and if they use their pick as expected today, I think there's going to be as good of a value at 11 as I've seen in a long time.